Here's another full process video of a drawing that I've just named Blue and Gold. I don't have a really good name for it yet, so it's going to be Untitled. Here's the pens I used. Here's the 3 colored pens I used. These pens are all Pigma Micron, and they are 0.5 millimeter down to 0.01 millimeter. I'm also using Molotow's Blackliner pens. They are 0.3 and 0.2 millimeter. I might have used a smaller tip as well, a 0.1 millimeter, but I can't remember. I'm filming this after I've made the drawing. And I really wanted to test out color combinations. So for this one, I'm also using a metallic gold from Painters. It is an Elmers brand paint marker, and it really shows its wonderful metallic color so well. I haven't shown the paper that I use very much, and for this one I'm using Strathmore's 500 series Bristol board. It is a complete cotton paper, and it is 100-pound Bristol board, and I really like it. It's fairly expensive, but they make other Bristol boards. I like the smooth surface. It takes pens so much better than the vellum surface, which is their textured surface. I went into this drawing just having a very basic idea of what I wanted to do. And for most of these, I always kind of sketch out the shape on paper, but not really sketch it out. I just kind of drag my hand across the paper to see the shape that I want the most. I have kind of an idea of what I want it to look like in my head, the basic shape, but I have to kind of see it in action first. So after I put down the first couple lines, then it starts to fill in. To start this piece, I'm using the gray Sakura Pigma Micron pen, and I wanted to make it really feather its way out. I'm trying something new by making it start with gray rather than a darker shade black or a darker shade of gray. And I really just want to use this to make it have kind of a smoke feel or a little bit of an ethereal feel. I'm also using long pen strokes as opposed to short ones to really draw out that shape and that feeling. To me, the longer pen strokes really make it a lot more relaxed and a lot more controlled and very, just subdued. And with a finer pen tip nib, it makes it a lot closer together and a lot more wavy and relaxing. I like watching this part in the 1,000 times speed to really see how it takes shape very quickly, because I see it in real time and it changes very fast that way, but it's also really fun to see it change at such a high speed. I like to start adding little bumps and lumps to the piece just to give it dimension, and I'm going to start altering the pattern right about here. It's one of my favorite parts to really start adding dimension by building structures and little nubs and other waves that it moves and flows from the main shape of the piece. I always like to leave a few spots where it's actual time drawing, and you can see how long it really takes to do these pieces. It's also nice to see how I do it and the way that things kind of unfold in real time. All sped up, you can see it really fast and it takes shape quickly, but seeing it in real time has a little bit different hit. I have a problem knowing when to quit, when to stop putting lines down of a certain color or thought process. So I get so focused that I don't see where I'm going, and I don't pay attention to the edges of the paper. It's really nice to be able to lose myself like that, but at the same time it makes things more cluttered and a little more busy than I want it to be. There's a really satisfying fold over that's going to happen right about here. And it's really fun to see it take shape over just a few lines, how changing the pattern just a little bit can give that that movement over on itself. It doesn't take much to change the pattern and make it look like it's folding over, just a few lines. And it's so satisfying when it's done. With pretty much all my pieces, I like to start big and go small. So I started with the large pattern and the larger pen tip, and then I'm working down to a smaller pen tip size and smaller pattern and more bumps and more undulation to the piece. It gives a lot of dimension and it makes things feel more whole and complete. I mentioned earlier how I have a problem taking things a little too far and not paying attention to the edge of the paper. And right about here is when I started noticing that it was getting to that point and I needed to be mindful. But I still wasn't done with the gray lines yet. I use a lot of these bumps and lumps and undulations to fill in with other things later, whether it be dots or more pattern of a different color. I just like having that ability to go back in and fill it in a different way. Even though I was being mindful as how much I was putting on the paper, I still accidentally ignored it and forgot about it. So I'm going to fill this in more than I anticipated, but in the end I think it turned out great. No video is complete without a cat. This one's Bjorn. He's my orange boy. He has no thoughts, but he's a very, very lovey boy. Whenever he sits in my lap, I have to put the armrest down. Otherwise, he gets fidgety. He has to rub his face on something. I don't show how many cat breaks I take, but I take a lot of them. If there's one in my lap, I need to pay attention to him at least a little bit, and it helps me with my mental state too. I oftentimes go back to these points and I try to fill them in and make them feel a little bit more leaf-like or blade-like, something that's a little more pleasing to the eye, because just having a point like that isn't very nice to me. And now I've decided that all of the gray lines are down, so I'm switching over to a really nice bright blue. Ultramarine is my favorite color of blue. This one's really close to that, at least in my eyes. I like it a lot. And a little fun fact is that ultramarine was originally made from lapis, which is a gemstone. And it was the most expensive pigment there was. It was reserved for only the Virgin Mary, if I remember correctly, paintings of the Virgin Mary. So it was a very, very expensive and very, very sought after blue. I really like it because it's one of those colors that in enough saturation, it's hard to look at. Not in a way that's like, I can't perceive it, but in a way that's like, it's so bright and so vivid that I don't quite understand. My brain doesn't quite process it correctly. My thought for this is to put blue all the way around the gray lines and highlight the center. And I don't want the center to really be the focal point. I want it to feather out from there, but I want to have enough emphasis on the center that you can still see it. And I thought framing it with blue and maybe another shade of blue would be ideal for that kind of situation. Another cat break. This one's Ginkgo. He's my oldest boy. He's diabetic and he deserves all the attention ever. He's the sweetest boy ever. When he sits in my lap, he likes to hug my tummy and smush his face into me. It's very, very sweet and very endearing. He likes to use his claws a little too much though, and he grabs onto me and pulls himself into me, and it hurts. I think he knows that it hurts and it's a way for him to get attention from me, but and it annoys me so much, but he's so sweet. I mean, just look at his big happy face. He is a 13-pound boy, so he's a pretty big cat. And he's just all love, no mean. And in fact, while I'm doing this voiceover, he's sitting in my lap right now too. Ginkgo covers me with his fur. He's black and white, so no matter what color of shirt or pants I'm wearing, I'll see his glitter, his fur all over me. I don't mind it. I love it. in a strange cat dad way, I'm never really alone at home, and that's really nice, as long as I have them around. Continuing with this blue color, I'm going to try to maintain the nice flowing and calm feeling from the gray lines out into the blue as far as I can take it. The overall feeling of this one, I still want to be ethereal and calming and just pleasant to look at. I'm still trying to keep things fairly simple and not too overly complicated with pattern or design or anything. I just want it to look really nice and flowing. And there's Amaru. As I'm doing this voiceover, Amaru has been a little extra needy today. When the weather's nice and the sun is shining, she thinks no matter what, it's got to be good enough to go outside for a little bit. And so she always lets me know repeatedly and loudly and without rest. I'm going to take this time to thank everyone that's subscribed to my channel, watched my content, and really just interacted with me a bunch. It means a whole lot, and I can't do this without you guys. So I really appreciate all of the time and all of the love that you've sent my way. No matter what, I will always create, and I will always be drawing or creating jewelry. In some way, shape, or form, I will be doing what I love, but having all of you guys support me and let me know that it's actually helping or helping you achieve your artistic goals is really special. So thank you all so much. I'm about halfway done with putting the first shade of blue down on the paper, and at this point in the drawing, I haven't had the thought to put another shade down. I just wanted to have really vibrant color, and I started to realize that it was too much. So I'm going to realize here soon that it needs another layer to really tone it down a little bit and make it a little bit calmer. I'm trying to be more mindful with incorporating more and more dimension as best I can without it making it being cluttered and too messy. I don't want it to be real messy and cluttered. I really like the tail end of this with its little leaf-like features and how it flows and moves so nicely. I wanted to keep that look without covering it up, even though I'm going to be putting blue all the way around it. So I think I accented it nicely in the end. This little bit coming up, we can really see it take shape and kind of zoom by and fill in fast. As I'm putting more and more ink down on paper, it gets a lot heavier and the pen stroke gets a lot closer together, and it feels very full but very flowing at the same time. And I like this section, how it turned out quite a bit. During this portion of the drawing, I'm watching I believe some anime with some friends online, so you can see me pause and check out what's happening on the screen above me, and yeah, just take a few seconds here and there. Since it's so sped up, it's minutes at a time that I'm doing that, but that's okay. And I'm being very mindful in this spot here to not cover up or detract from how much I like this point, this leafy bit at the very end. I always go back in and make sure that I fill in portions that I feel are a little lacking or need a little extra dimension. So during this portion, that's what I do. I'm going to go back in and make sure that everything feels whole. I really like how at this distance, it's easier to see the pattern take shape and fill in and make it feel more complete, just overall smoother and nicer. It's also really nice from this distance to see how complete it already is, how many folds and how it works together with itself, and how the gray really is the center, but doesn't act like the center or the focal point. It's just kind of there, and the blue is really taking over and taking the show. This perspective always gives me that third person kind of not really me doing it feel. So as I'm editing this and watching myself draw, it's interesting to see the direction it takes without remembering every little detail here and there, and just seeing the whole piece as it is, as it unfolds. I'm putting down the last little bit of this lighter blue, and I'm realizing that it needs a little more dimension. So I believe at this point I decided that I wanted another darker color. So here I'm going in and adding that, and I didn't want it to be so overpowering. I didn't want it to, again, take the show. I wanted it just to blend in so nicely. So I'm going to add it to the outside, all the way around the outside, and make it more bumpy and lumpy so that I can fill it in better after that as well. I find once I get on a roll and start really sitting down and getting into the drawing, everything happens very, very quickly. I hyper focus and really excel and take leaps and bounds very quickly. And again, I'm going to go around the whole perimeter of this piece with this new shade of blue to accent it a little bit better and give more dimension. I remember at the time drawing this and really, really not liking it. This little tail doesn't feel right. It was awkward and unpleasant. And sometimes that's the way it goes. It takes a little bit of time, but once you fill it in a little bit more, or just add a little bit more pattern, then it can change and make it feel whole and much, much better. This is again the side that I like oh so much. So on this part, I'm extra careful to make it feel better right off the bat. It's funny how that works sometimes with drawings. You'll find a spot that you really, really like, and even though you're going to be adding to it or doing something to it in some way, shape, or form, you're still very protective and trying to maintain that feeling, that caring of that spot. This part got more difficult to draw just from the angle of the paper. Sometimes that happens and you have to switch things around, but it gets uncomfortable and more difficult than it should be. So when that happens, it's just time to move the paper around and get a better spot. And with this new angle, it's much easier to get this curvature right without making it look messy or having it be choppy as I draw. It's just very important to make sure that you're comfortable and able to do what you want to do while you draw. Otherwise, it can lead to fun neck problems in like my situation. I try to take stretching breaks and just breaks in general from the same thing over and over again to maintain my body for one, but also to avoid fatigue and frustration. I find that if I sit and work too hard for too long, I start getting frustrated for no reason. But really the reason is that my body is aching and it's telling me to take a break and get away and maybe have a snack or something. This is where I finish putting all of the darker blue around the perimeter, and then it's off to some gold. Fill it in with something a little bit different. I don't want the gold to touch the blue at all. I want it just to be around the outside, making just framing it with some gold. I always find it's nice to kind of map out where I'm going with the pen stroke before I actually do it. These paint markers are nice. They sometimes don't put down enough paint at the same time, so you need to attend to it and activate more. It's got a pump tip, so you have to press down to press the tip, and it puts more paint into the actual fiber itself. So they can be a little temperamental and they can dry out and do some goofy things, but in the end, this brand of marker really works well. Gold paint is always fun to see go down, especially because from this distance it looks in different spots Yeah, more metallic or less metallic. So it's just really, really fun to see how this angle of the camera affects how the optics of the paint on the paper. I wanted to keep it fairly consistent and just have not a super, super tight pattern, but tight enough that it was coherent with the blue portion of the piece, and just kind of accent it rather than, again, steal the show. Just want it overall to match energy all the way around and make it seem as flowing as possible. I also really wanted to show how long it takes to do this portion. It's not a super long time, and I go back over it a couple of times, but it still takes a few minutes to get all of this down on paper before it starts to take shape. There's a lot of spots that I go back and touch up, because again, these paint markers are a little unreliable with how much paint they put down at one given time. So I have to go back and touch things up, or yeah, just make sure that everything is nice and smooth. I'll let this next minute or so of this portion of the drawing go without any sort of voiceover, just for funsies. I had to go over this many different angles and many different times to get everything just right. It's hard to see properly at some angles when you're using these paint markers, just because it's shiny and bright and it doesn't quite, it's hard to get the angle just right so that it looks good. So I'm going to be flipping this drawing around back and forth, getting it the way I want it to look. I wanted both sides to have this gold kind of outlining it, making it highlight the center, but I didn't want the gold patterns to touch each other. I just wanted them to frame it nicely and have like a parenthesis around it. And that's just to highlight the center, the blue and everything, as one whole piece rather than individual colors and individual parts. I've really been into adding metallic paint to my drawings recently. It just adds this really interesting shine and contrast to the rest of it. Whether it be black and gold, it really highlights the actual pen part rather than the paint part. And especially with certain color combos like blue and black, those go very, very well. Red and orange also do too, but I'm more of a highlight with something warmer against cool colors like blue. But that's just because I love blue so much. My favorite colors are blues. During this segment, I realized that it was a little too flat, that it needed a little more dimension, some bumps or something to add more dimension, because it was just way too flat and didn't have the right feeling or the right it just didn't look right in my mind. Started adding some more dimension to the piece, and then I realized that I really needed to make that grow a lot more. Otherwise, it's just too flat. It doesn't have enough oomph behind that gold. So I filled in the rest of this portion, this little hook up at the top, and then I started really leaning into the undulation of it, and I think it made a really, really good turn, because it just didn't feel right. Yeah, right here is where I start adding these little lumps that turn into more of these tendrils and give direction and a little more emotion to the piece. I really like how they take up a little more negative space, as well as like feathering out away from it to draw your eye just a little bit more away from center. Normally I don't like to do that too much, but with this I wanted to use a little bit more of the negative space. Over the next few minutes, that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing, is adding these little squiggly guys to the outside of the gold. It's really fun to watch these take shape in just a few seconds. In real life, they take maybe a couple of minutes to make, but it's really fun just to see it all happen at once very quickly. I decided that it wasn't the center wasn't full enough. It wasn't matching energy of the gold ink on the outside. So I went back in with a little bit of black, and I filled it in to kind of fill some negative space around the outside and get closer to the gold ink on the outside too. Here's another short cat break. Ginkgo just hopped up into my lap, and he oftentimes just wants to be paid attention to and just needs a little extra love. He'll often rub his face on mine, and it's so cute and so nice. All he wants is just to be loved. I don't know why, but all my cats, they love to rub their face right on my nose. Mushi especially loves to rub his face on my nose and then give me little bites on my nose. It's very cute and very endearing, but he uses teeth. Ginkgo is also very receptive to kisses, so you give him a kiss and he'll want to reciprocate equally, and it's very cute and very sweet. Yeah, right there, right on my nose. Rub his little face all over my nose. Another cat break. So special, so sweet. I just love him so much. I always like to go in one last time with a few different pen tip sizes and get the pattern even smaller to really blend everything together and get everything coherent with itself. So I believe I'm going through here with a 0.1 millimeter pen tip and really feathering things out and just making it a little bit more whole. I think the black really accented everything very nicely and brought the eye into center without taking away too much. And I really like seeing how it changes the piece and how it fills in these negative spaces just enough so that it blends together nicely without taking over. After adding this little bit of black to this tip, this little hook bit, I felt that it was just what it needed, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I kind of left it and just added a little bit extra to fill in the space a little bit better, and I thought it made it look so much cooler and dramatic. This part took a little bit longer than what I was anticipating, but it's the final details that can really make or break a piece like this. So I went through and made sure that everything felt the way that I wanted it to, and felt complete from my original thought. I think I go over the piece maybe once or twice more, the whole thing, one or two more times each side, to make sure that everything fills in the way I want it and has enough movement that it's not lacking in any department. We're also not going to see the whole piece until the very end when I'm done with everything. So we're just going to see these little bits and pieces of it being completed until the very end here. Getting close to the end of the video, I'd like to once again thank everybody for watching and for being a part of the community and just enjoying my content so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm on all sorts of other social media as well, and check out my website. I've gotten some recommendations to make some more merch, so I'm going to be going through and designing that in the near future. Clothing and maybe even a puzzle. A coloring book is in the near future too. And here's the final piece. I'm gonna take a moment to get some money shots out there just so that we can really see what this looks like. I think in total this took me about 4, maybe 6 hours to do all together, and it was really fun. I really enjoyed pushing myself to get the lines as close as possible together and utilizing the gold and the negative space as much as possible. It's really fun to see how different angles affect how much shine and how much contrast you get off of the metallic ink. And that's why this is my favorite metallic gold that I've found, because it has such a depth to it. This is on a 14 by 17 piece of Bristol board, so you can see my hands for size reference. But look at this flash. Oof. Oh, I just like how it stands out so much against the rest of it. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and we'll see you in the next one. I'm planning on a few more tutorials, so we'll see that as it unfolds. Thank you.